So wherever you start is okay. And I think that if people take small, consistent actions every day to improve their financial knowledge, hence their financial fitness, they can move on that spectrum to where they want to go.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we have Miss Tracey Bissett, and we are going to be talking about a lot of stuff that will help you, the entrepreneur, to be equipped with your with your financial troubles, with your financial dreams, with your financial strategy. And we are going to be tackling about our personal experience, mine included, with how I started up and with all the stuff that I kind of struggled with when I was starting up SEO Hacker. It was a lot and it was no joke, and it can sink a business. Listen up and enjoy this episode. Tracey, thank you so much for joining us here in Leadership Stack podcast.
Thank you, Sean. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
So I have a couple of questions for you, but before I do so, I want the audience to know you a little bit better. What is it that you do, and what is it that you like doing? Some hobbies, some things that you do in your spare time.
Absolutely. So I am a financial coach for young adults and for entrepreneurs. So really I help both of those groups understand things about money, things about finance, whether it be personal or business, and really take the mystery out of it. And I'm all about coming from a place of positivity and building on what you already know so that you can grow your confidence and really use money as a tool to help you go where you want to go. Everybody's dreams and goals are different, and there is no reason why everyone shouldn't be able to hit their goals. From a personal standpoint, I absolutely love music, especially live music. So my concerts have certainly been impacted this year. I live in Canada, so in Toronto where I live, I usually go to about 25, 30 a year, and that's really fun for me. One of the things that people would say and make a judgment about how I spend my money is on those concerts, because concerts are very expensive, but it's all about living within your means and doing what's important to you. My golden retriever, Rosie, and I, we volunteer with Therapeutic Plaza Canada. So we're a therapy dog team, and you can usually find us in non-COVID times visiting with seniors once a week. And then I would say I do spend a lot of time on my business. So it's fun. I like seeing the new things I can create. And definitely as an entrepreneur, I've learned so many new skills and learned how to do so many new things I didn't even know before. So it's totally fun.
It is an exciting journey, and you're what, 3 years in?
Yeah.
One of the most exciting times during a startup phase is the first 5 years. You're just gonna be able to discover, learn, and grow during that phase. With the concerts, my first secular concert, I would say, because I'm a born again Christian, I do attend a lot of Hillsong's concert when I was
Mm-hmm.
younger. But my first one, oh man, it was just last year actually. I attended the U2 concert on Singapore with my wife, and that's the
Wow.
first ever secular concert I've ever been to. So we are on the opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to concerts. But yeah, to each his own, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
what are, and I'm just curious, what are some of the bands that you attend live concerts
So
with?
like lots of pop, rock, and country. So I was very excited for Lady Gaga. She's rescheduled, so that's going to be great. One of the best I've seen is Pink. She's just an amazing
Yeah.
artist. Her physical capabilities are amazing because she does an acrobatic show while she's doing the concert. Adele is a huge one. So, I mean, I could go on and on. Depends on the criteria we're judging them, but so many fantastic artists out there, and just being in a crowd where everybody knows the words to songs is really kind of a unique feeling where everyone's in something together. So I like that. And especially where I live, there's an outdoor amphitheater, so it only seats about 15,000 people. So nice summer night, you're outside, a really great way to enjoy music.
Wow. Amazing. So why don't we jump into the first question? I have seen your website. I have gone through some of your podcasts, and one of the things that I know our listeners should be familiar with before we move on further is financial fitness. I could see that you kind of coined this term in your site. Tell us all about it for listeners who may not be familiar with it. What do you mean by financial fitness?
So that's a wonderful question, Sean. Everyone's probably very familiar with the term financial literacy. And so that's improving your financial knowledge, your financial skills, so that you can do things capably. I always find there's a very negative connotation that all of a sudden you're illiterate and you don't know anything about money, and it can make people feel very uncomfortable, very down on themselves in terms of what they know. So when I think about financial fitness, it's again coming from the positive, building on the things that you know. We're on this journey to become more financially fit, and we're really starting from wherever we are. So if we think of it kind of akin to physical fitness, you could be taking that first step off the couch. You're going to go take a walk around your street. That's where you're starting on your journey. Similarly, in the financial side, we could be just learning about different kinds of bank accounts, creating a budget, things like that. If we move along the spectrum and we're more physically fit, maybe we're training for marathons. On the financial side, maybe we're training and we're learning more to be a more sophisticated investor. So wherever you start is okay. And I think that if people take small, consistent actions every day to improve their financial knowledge, hence their financial fitness, they can move on that spectrum to where they want to go. There's no one destination. Everyone has different goals, dreams. So you want to move to where you're happy, where you're comfortable. And I think just like anything, the more we learn, the more confident we can feel. And the thing that really permeates with me and resonates with me is that financial matters permeate through every aspect of our lives. So if we are struggling financially, it's going to affect our health. It's going to affect our relationship. We're probably not going to sleep. We're going to have a lot of stress and anxiety. So the more we can do to take control of that piece and kind of level off all of those kind of implications, I think the better, so that you can focus on whatever it is that makes you happy and you do best.
And a trivia would be the number one thing that couples fight about, married couples, is money,
Money.
right? Yeah. So it is
Absolutely.
true. Yeah, it is true what you mentioned about having a healthier relationship. No one wants to have any conflict, right? Especially in marriage, it is difficult to have money problems. Now, is it right, and I just want to clarify this, that when you say financial literacy, it's more of having it in the mind, and financial fitness is about just practicing that, doing it, living it out?
I think the two go hand in hand because the literacy piece is a lot broader around knowing and doing. Um, Interesting what you bring up about the couples. Your views around money form when you're so young. So I've had a 5-year-old tell me that money is evil. So imagine what goes on in that household that makes her feel that way. There's probably yelling, there's probably door slamming, there might be crying, there might be people calling, maybe collectors. So she probably doesn't even know what money is, but she feels that way. So imagine then you go fast forward into your life, whatever age you are, you come together with your spouse, you both have these ingrained routines and ways that you deal with money, things that you think are true, whether they are or not. Now there can be this clash of two different viewpoints coming together, and it's a lot to work through.
That's something, huh? 5-year-old. Wow.
Yeah.
So it is, it is one of the most important things, I also think, not just in marriage, but in all walks of life,
Hmm.
especially when you are trying to build your future, maybe as a professional or as a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, you have your whole life ahead of you. It is super important for you to have financial literacy and also financial fitness. Now, how do you, when you're going to be starting to engage someone in helping them with their journey to becoming financially fit, I wonder, how do you analyze or benchmark a person's or maybe an entrepreneur's financial fitness?
Absolutely. So the first thing I like to do when we're working together is I usually ask them what they know about their finances, and most times they tell me they don't know anything, which very quickly I find out is not true.
Wow,
But they people are very lacking in self-confidence around that financial aspect. So just getting them talking about it. But I like to look at the numbers. And I do an assessment using traditional financial ratios. I compare it to their performance year over year. I compare it to industry benchmarks, and we talk through it. And it gives us a really good opportunity to talk about, number one, what are these financial statements? So the one that most entrepreneurs may know is the income statement, also called the profit and loss, P&L, where you really have all your sales and then all of your expenses. That's the one that most entrepreneurs take a peek at. Then the other one that's very important is your balance sheet, that shows all of the things that you own, all of your assets, and all of the people you owe money to, and the equity or the funds you've built up in the business. So explaining how those statements work, and then from an outsider's perspective, very objective, how do they stack up according to those ratios? And the interesting thing is that while I'm talking about what I'm seeing, they're able to fill in the gaps of the story of what was happening in the business, because they knew how it felt. If I start talking about liquidity, which is having cash to pay your bills, your short-term obligations, and it's a really formal term, they'll remember that they had some cash flow challenges and things felt strained at that period of time when I'm talking about that in the numbers. So it's really nice to see the analysis and their story come together, because between the two of us, we can then build on their knowledge and help them start to see how the numbers can help them plan for future things in the business.
So you really go in, get your hands dirty, and dive deep into the financial statements and just all of the financial records that the entrepreneur has. And I wonder, like, what are some of the friction points when it comes to that? Because there may be some entrepreneurs who are a little bit private when it comes to their P&L, right, or their profit margins. How do you go around that?
So first of all, when I talk with the clients, I make sure they understand that it's completely confidential. It's just me who's seeing the numbers. There's nobody else going to be seeing them. And these are my independent views on it, my independent observations. But numbers can only tell so much of the story. And that's something really important for all the entrepreneurs listening to keep in mind, that even though you may have a bookkeeper or an accountant doing your records, if you don't position things properly with them or explain to them how your business works, they can only set things up and record things in the way that they think. But if maybe your sales aren't broken out in the way that you need, or you're not showing your expenses properly, things can actually come out in the statements that are not right. So it's important that anybody who's assisting you with your numbers understands the business so that it can be reflected properly. I would say in probably 75-80% of the cases with men and women I work with, entrepreneurs, there are tiers. So like you were saying, there's going to be those friction points. And that's because it's bringing up insecurities. It's bringing up potentially past mistakes, especially when companies are starting up, there may be some losses. And so people don't feel good about that. It's a natural reaction. So just making people feel comfortable that they're not doing anything that's abnormal. This is certainly the case that I see, and that I'm here to support them and help them grow. And we start absolutely from wherever they are. So we're going to build on their starting place, and it is for the most part one-on-one work that we do together. I've recently launched some group programs where we're going through more case studies, and we're looking at someone else's results, which takes a little bit of the emotion away because you're able to learn. But then I find when people start getting some comfort with that, then they want to dig into their own and they want to know what I think about their numbers. So it's really fun work, and it's really my privilege to be able to take all my experience from working in banking, and I was lending money directly to companies of all different sizes, all different industries, take what I know and pass it forward so that entrepreneurs, just with minor shifts in their business, they can change the trajectory for where it goes, and certainly the profitability piece.
Got it. So you mentioned accountants and bookkeepers earlier. I wonder, what happens to the accountants and bookkeepers? Do you work with them, or do you replace them altogether?
So I am not an accountant, so that's a good distinction to talk about. I am a financial coach. I don't want to be an accountant. I know an awful lot about financial statements from my time in banking, but I don't want to create them. So I will bring up my observations, my recommendations. I may say if things look a little bit abnormal, especially on internal statements before you get to year end, there's usually some work that needs to be done to do some cleanup. And so what I advise is the clients to make a list of the things I've pointed out and have those conversations with the bookkeeper and the accountant. Just as they will ask me questions around how should I get paid? Should I take a salary? Should I take dividends? Maybe I should repay shareholder loans. I always advise kind of the pros and cons of each, but at the end of the day, they should be working with their accountant on tax strategies to make sure that they're choosing the right thing for them.
Cool. And so these entrepreneurs, most of them would have employees and teams. And I wonder how many of these entrepreneurs that you work with would tell you, hey, Tracey, can you help me with my team as well? Because they're struggling with their own finances. And some of them have been asking to borrow money from me, or they can't just save and they're like getting buried under credit card debt. Like, I wonder how many of those cases have you encountered, and what do you do to help the team members of that specific organization?
Depending on the size of the team, I mean, it is a common thing that I hear. In Canada, I find that employers are very much in tune now to one of the benefits that should be offered in your company is not only like your health, your medical kind of benefits, but also from this financial wellness piece. Certainly, the larger corporations are well on this and providing lots of training, potentially counseling from a financial standpoint for their employees. But for the smaller companies, that's not necessarily so accessible. So we may do some lunch and learns, we may do some sessions like that, or I may refer them, depending on exactly what their challenges are, to someone who specializes in that area. But I can tell you that employees are extremely grateful. They too want to build their financial fitness. And if they do have financial struggles, that's taking their mind off their work when they're there with you, because they're worried about, I know I'm going to get paid on Friday, but I know that that already has to go to pay for where I live and my food, and I don't have enough money for my kids' school or whatever it may be. And so those stresses, just like we talked about how it impacts marriage, it impacts their work and productivity. So caring about that whole employee and financial being one of those elements that you're helping, super important. And I think employers would really stand out from taking the opportunity to provide services that help their employees. It's one of those things employees may not necessarily ever raise with you, but I know that they will be extremely happy and grateful to know that there's support if they need it.
Cool. And it is what you mentioned is really true that people who are preoccupied thinking about how am I going to make ends meet with my finances are not going to perform that well in your team. So that has to be addressed. And I'm very happy to hear that you are helping some of those entrepreneurs, making sure that their organization is working well.